In this video, we will talk about the universal moral standard based on the universal terminal goal within Cogito Praesens philosophical framework. We will start from definitions of each word in the phrase and take their implications into account. A standard is an idea or thing used as a measure, norm, or model in comparative evaluations. Moral means concerned with the principles of right and wrong behavior and the goodness or badness of character. Universal means no other constraint should be added to the standard determined by previous words. The only valid constraints have already been set by the definitions of standard and moral. In practice, a standard is often distinguished from a rule, which is defined as a set of regulations or principles governing conduct within a particular activity. Rules emphasize on practicality, while standards emphasize on consistency. Their roles can be overlapping. Rules can be used as standards, but they tend to be inconsistent. Standards can be used as rules, but they tend to be impractical. For example, we have two rulers, but when compared, they show different values of measurement. We need a standard to determine which one is more accurate. To solve this problem, we can use regional standard, national standard, or international standard. The sorted list increases in consistency, but decreases in practicality. Rules are used to evaluate objects or activities. Standards are used to evaluate rules. Standards can be classified into moral and non-moral. Non-moral means unrelated to good or bad behavior, while moral means related to good or bad behavior. A behavior is good if it gets us closer to our terminal goal. On the other hand, a behavior is bad if it gets us further away from our terminal goal. Thus, to make a rational moral judgment, we must determine the terminal goal used for the evaluation. Standards other than the universal moral standard would be either non-universal or non-moral. Non-moral standard means standards not directly related to moral values. For example, technical and aesthetic standards mean standards related to technical and aesthetic values, respectively. Local moral standard means standards belonging or relating to a particular area or neighborhood, typically exclusively so. Temporal moral standard means standards belonging or relating to a particular era or time, typically exclusively so. For example, tribal or religious moral standards. The universal moral standard evaluates moral rules based on their relationships to the universal terminal goal. In a particular situation, one moral rule might be more aligned with the universal terminal goal, while in another situation, it might be less aligned with the universal terminal goal, which has been determined previously as to extend the existence of conscious entities into furthest conceivable future. Failure to distinguish between the roles of moral rules and moral standards seems to have misled some philosophers to embrace moral relativism or moral subjectivism. In the light of the universal moral standard based on the universal terminal goal, any moral problems can be transformed into technical and scientific problems.